Vitor,
Olá. Hello.
escoitas? Ah, muito bom, muito bom.
Muito bem. Olá, Manolo.
Que tal? Boa noite.
Boa noite. Muitas graças pela convite e pela invitation.
Deixa-me poner o vídeo porque quero utilizar o vídeo contigo. Tes a apresentação?
Sim, sim. Me queres que
Pode
partilhe?
fazer compartilhando a ecrã.
De acordo, de acordo. Sim, irei partilhar a apresentação. Espero que esteja neste momento.
Ótimo, ótimo.
Penso que estarão, não sei se penso que confirmes
Sí,
que
perfectamente.
Perfeito.
Perfectamente.
Okay.
Vamos a esperar un par de minutinhos.
Manolo, maybe I can switch to English. Meu castelhano não é bueno. I would like to say that it's always a pleasure to see you.
No problem, no problem. Vou te apresentar.
Always
então...
a good, fantastic pleasure to meet you, even virtually. I'll prefer to be in person together with you, but what we are today, due to this pandemic situation, but even with the pandemic, is always a pleasure to.
Don't worry, give me only 2 minutes to present you and to wait for some people that is waiting to go in. And
okay,
we can begin without any problem. At the moment, we have here 36 people waiting for your conference.
Okay, let's see if I'll be able not to disappoint these colleagues. So I hope to be able to give some values and some insights and
I'm sure
that can lead us to a discussion. Let's see if it's possible.
Vamos a empezar en 2 minutos, ¿vale, Víctor?
Vale.
Están todas las alarmas sonando. Vou te apresentar en español, ok, Víctor? E despois
okay,
xa
de acordo.
En inglés para todas as persoas, de acordo?
De acordo, perfeito.
Bien, pues vamos a empezar entonces. Buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a esta última charla del día que del Congreso del CIMPS 2021, que la va a presentar el profesor doctor don Víctor Santos, que es profesor investigador en Nova IMS, la Universidad de Nova de Lisboa en Portugal. Mi amigo Víctor Santos es sin duda uno de los mayores expertos, si no el mayor, en el estudio de las arquitecturas software. Hemos compartido varias clases y he tenido el honor de pasar unos días con su hermosa familia en Lisboa a raíz de un tribunal de tesis. Por tanto, no solo nos une la profesión, sino también una profunda amistad, de lo cual me siento muy orgulloso. Es una persona que crea nuevas ideas con una facilidad que resulta increíble. Basta leer sus numerosos artículos o asistir a una de sus clases para ver el grandísimo investigador que es y, lo mejor aún, la grandísima persona que es. Es un comunicador auténtico. Su charla, que es Using Enterprise Architecture's Approach to Improve the Existing Information Systems, que en español sería uso del enfoque de arquitecturas de empresa para la mejora de sistemas de información existentes, las va a sorprender sin duda. Y un pequeño resumen. Las arquitecturas y tecnologías para sistemas de información son ahora ineludibles en el contexto del desarrollo exitoso de proyectos de sistemas de información, siendo cruciales y de aplicación en áreas muy diversas como la banca, la administración pública, la industria y muchas otras. La presentación busca brindar un conjunto de conceptos, técnicas y herramientas básicas para el diseño e implementación de arquitecturas y tecnologías de sistemas de información. El enfoque principal será la implementación pragmática de técnicas para mejorar la arquitectura de sistemas de información existentes, tal cual son ellos, en una mejora de arquitectura como debe ser. Por lo tanto, les dejo con mi querido amigo Víctor Santos. Meu caro amigo, quando você queira, my friend, when you want.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for the very kind presentation. I would like to say that it's exactly the same, but I think that you have exaggerated about myself, but
No.
a lot. Anyway, I would say, first of all, I want to thank you for the kind invitation. It's an honor to be here together with you. It's an honor to share my thoughts about enterprise architectures with this fantastic audience that are researchers of the CIMPS conference. I'm a software engineering. I live as a software engineering, and before I've been a professor, I am a software engineering, and let's hope that this means something to everyone. So let me talk a little about myself, not very interesting. So I've been in industry, so despite my age, I'm not so old professor, as I came from industry. I work as engineering for the bank industry, for the pharmaceutical industry, and for Microsoft as academic director in Microsoft. So today I'm a professor, and I've been working during these last 10 years as a professor in artificial intelligence mixed with information systems. My main research interests are this mix, this cross between artificial intelligence and information systems. But in the end of the day, I'm still a software engineering, and I'm quite interested in the information system architectures, the idea of the creativity, and of course about data science engineering. I work in Nova IMS. Just a brief introduction about Nova IMS. We are a data science school. So here you have a brief overview. I guess that after this presentation, I'll send you my presentation, so you can then read this in detail if you want. But we are, let's say, a successful school. We have some of the best masters in the world, according to the rankings. So we have students from 18 different nationalities, and almost 35% of our students came from all parts of the world, from Australia, from US, from all parts of Europe, even from Mexico. I have a student from Mexico. It's called Julio. a fantastic guy, just to let you know. And well, I would say that we are a very nice school. If one of each of you come to Lisbon, I'll be happy to welcome you in our school. Well, of course, I'm in Portugal. I would say that maybe, I'm not sure if we can compete with Mexico, with the beautiful landscape of Mexico, because probably it will be difficult for a small country like Portugal to compete with the amazing Mexico. But well, Portugal is also an interesting country. I decided to select some pictures about our beach. We have a mix, as you can see by this mix, we have a mix between the modernity, like you have here in this picture, and our history, because we come from the 12th century, and so we have a lot of castles, and so on. So for sure, if you decide to come to Portugal, of course I will welcome you in Nova MES, but you'll have a lot of places to see in Portugal, and I can guarantee that you feel very welcome, as Portuguese people are known for being very, let's say, warmest people. So you don't need to do much, you just need to email and to say, I'm here. And then I'll be happy to welcome you in our small, but of course, my suspicious and biased opinion, nice country. So this is just about myself, and now I'll start with my my presentation. But before I just start with my presentation, I want to just underline that please don't wait for the end of my presentation to ask me things or just to challenge me with your ideas. For me, it won't be a problem. In the opposite, it will be something that I will enjoy, because as Manuel knows, I really love to have a smart and intelligent talk about our research, our technology. So don't hesitate to stop and say, I don't agree, or please, can you repeat? You are saying silly things. So whatever you wish to say, don't be afraid to interrupt, because I think that I really believe that we will reach our talk. So as you can see here, we'll talk about enterprise architectures. So the first thing to say, okay, this enterprise architecture, what we are talking about? What is this? Well, we are aware about architectures because we learn that this is a job. These architectures are the guys that are planning, for instance, our cities, right? They make the plans, and then we as engineers will build the infrastructures. But they have the plan, and we know that some of them are really remarkable. They're important, and some of them are like, movie stars, right? But what does it mean in our area, in information system areas? Well, let me start in the beginning. What it means architecture? Well, if you think about this global idea of architecture, this term has several meanings, but if you think about these guys that are planning our cities, and let me see that I'm not being ironic with that, because I think it's a good thing. These guys are the person that bring not only the beautiful to the landscape, but visibility to the things. But in a way, they are the guys that try to put the structures bundled together, so they have the big picture. They are in charge of not only design structures, but they are in charge of design structures that works. And if you think about this definition of the architecture as let's say, as a general job, what could be, what it will mean by making the analogy between the architecture, let's say the role of architecture and the role of as information system architect. And as you can see here, and I wrote this, you can adapt. You can make the analogy. So the information system architecture will be the guy with the big picture. Yeah. So it will be the person that will make the systems together, that will bundle all these systems together. The guy that will plan the infrastructure. And of course, you can think, okay, but is this useful? Well, maybe if it's a very small system, well, I don't need the architecture. And okay, I tend to agree with you. If you plan to develop a software for, let's say, a restaurant, maybe you don't need architecture. No, it's not clear, but maybe not. But if you are thinking about building a software for instance, a hospital, maybe you cannot just sitting, drawing class diagrams and then code the software to the hospital. Maybe it will be too complex. So in that sense, we'll probably need the architect. But before we go to this idea of the enterprise architecture, let me talk a little about the evolution. In the past, as you know, and I know that you are aware about this, but just to give you some context. If you think about this evolution, in the beginning, in the 30s, we had just electronic machines. Remember Alan Turing? So some devices. Then in the 50s, we start with a single computer, mainframes, then mini computers. Then we have, let's say, Boost in the 80s. At least here in Portugal, I bought my first computer in the 80s. I saved a lot of money, but in the end, there are isolated systems. Okay, so if you remember this age, we had a computer, then maybe a printer, right? You remember the printers? So you put the computer in your home, right? A tower or a mini tower, it depends. Then a printer together. And then you were working with, you remember this 20 megabytes? Wow, fantastic. 20 megabytes, right? Almost less than the photo that you have in your smartphones. But okay, so it is in the 80s, maybe the architecture, the information system architecture won't be needed because, as you can see here, it's too simple, right? You know, okay, it's just some isolated systems, okay? And well, why do we need an architecture? And the answer is no, we don't need architecture. We don't, it's so simple that it's no need to have an architecture. But if you think about evolution, and this evolution results of the connectivity of the LANs, local area networks, then you see that suddenly we start having Ethernets inside our companies. Probably, I'm not sure about maybe for some of you, I'm talking about old-fashioned things. I really apologize because it's a kind of archaeology, what I'm talking about. But in the end, I'm talking about the 80s, 40 years ago. But in our area, that is information system, all the things are fast. But what I mean is that here, in this second stage, we have connectivity. So the printer was not a printer, one computer, one printer. So we were able to share the printers. Later, we were able to share the files. So the reason, and here in this stage, we have the client service architecture as being the most important architectures. And after that, we have a dispersion area that increased fantastic. So what we have was what we got, and of course with the boost of internet, we got a connectivity between not internal connectivity between our systems, but between different systems. And what does it mean? Then it means that the complexity explodes. So we have the exponential complexity in this connectivity. So when the systems were connected first with the web, what of course is a buzzword with web 1.0 and later with web 2.0 and today with cloud computing and Internet of Things, then you can easily imagine that these systems is a kind of impossible system because everything is connected. It is so complex that here you don't have anymore a computer, but probably what you have is a TV, a fridge, a car, your watch, everything. So today we have this complexity. And plus, we have another thing that I call XLL. Have you heard about XLL? Here we have an image of XL with fire. So is XL on L, right? And what is this? If you want to add to this set of technology of these distributed systems, the idea of the personal production of files of information, then you also have more complexity. That is, how can you integrate the information that is built by everyone in their personal computers? And if you think about Excel, you can also think about Access files, because today Access, that is a Russian database, as you know, Microsoft, is perceived as being a domestic issue. So everyone is building Excel sheets, access the database files. We have a lot of IoT systems. So we are in a very complex world. So as you can see, we are here. And if you can, now you can feel pity about this guy because he's near to fall down from this this line to the ground. And so if we are in a very complex world, we need some order. We need to have some way to manage this decentralization, because we have all these type of systems, all these type of files, and in the same way we need to avoid the chaos, if it's possible to avoid the chaos. So in the end, what I'm saying is that we need to have the idea of information system architecture as the concept that is missing, the concept that will allow us to put some order in this chaos. Okay, I don't like, to be honest with you, I don't like very much to have definitions. Manuel, you know me very well. I hate these things by the dictionary, by the encyclopedia. But sometimes they can be useful as they can short our reasoning. But how can we put order in this chaos? Because we have multiple things. If you remember, we have IoT systems, so we have sensors, but we have databases, we have Excel sheets, we have artificial intelligence software, we have RPs. So how can we order all of these? At the same time, we have our business goals, we have people, we have connectivity, so we have everything. How can we organize these things? And the idea is that, well, can we make a diagram that can represent all this reality? I mean, the data organization, the network, the people motivation, the skills, the process, the software architecture. And the answer is probably not. So if not, what can we do? And what can we do is to have a set of representations. And this is what means enterprise architecture. It means that we don't have a single diagram to represent all the picture, but what we have is let's say a set of representations, and each representation will focus on an aspect of the system and in a view of a particular role. So this is what we have. And so according to Zachman, that was probably the pioneer, I'm saying probably because there are a discussion about this. According with Zachman, the enterprise architecture is not a single diagram, but is a set of representations. And in the end, why do we need this set of representations? Okay, you can think, okay, well, fantastic. We have a puzzle, and we are just slicing the puzzle in pieces, and each piece represents a part of my reality. Okay, but what's the point? And my friends, the point is that we can use the representation of this chaotic system to improve the system. Okay, so we are talking about the goal of the information architecture is to understand the reality and to understand what could be the future. So we are aiming with all these type of things, and in the end, what we want is to make the things better, as you can see here in this image. Guys, please feel free to interrupt me, like I said. Okay. All right. So the mission of enterprise architecture, as you can see in this image, is to go from as-is architecture, enterprise architecture, to a how-to-be architecture, right? And the goal is not just to make this transformation in terms of technology, because if it's just technology, it should be, let's say, simpler. What we want to do is this transformation, not only by creating better technology, but mostly to have a better alignment with the mission and the strategy of the business. So the idea is that this improvement of the existing architecture is not for the technologies. The idea is to improve for people, for the business. Because you can have a fantastic set of technology, and if it's not aligned with the business, then the business will fail. There's no point of that. You can be very proud. I'm a fantastic engineer. I create a fantastic software. But in the end of the day, if it's not aligned with the strategy of the company, then it'll be unuseful. And of course, if, like I said, if the problem is a small business with low complexity, okay, it will be simple. You can think about this as just a software. Beware when I'm talking just, I'm not saying that is a simple thing, but you can think as a software engineering project. So you define the requirements, the new requirements, and then you can design the software and then deploy development and deploy the software. But when we are talking about these systems, it's not just about defining requirements, because it's much bigger than that. So we need to have a systematic approach, and that's the goal of my talk today. Okay. So as I said, we can think about enterprise architectures as a set of rooms. Here you can think in this, you can find in these links some definitions about enterprise architecture. But you can think as you have here a map of apartments, okay? And we have a garage. You can see here we have, maybe I need to put my glasses now. You see, maybe we have a bedroom here, right? Dinner room, a kitchen, right? Something like that. So it's almost the same. When we are thinking, as the picture is so complex, we need to do exactly the same that the architects, the guys that had the role of being architects did by planning this apartment. So we need to define a set of rooms. And it's exactly what Zachman did with his famous Zachman framework. As you can see here, I will briefly explain this. You have in the columns, you have different aspects: data, functions, network, people, time, and motivation. And in each row, you can see here, you have the views. In the cross of the columns with the rows, you have a square. Let's, for instance, here, if you cross the enterprise model, the conceptual owner with the network, so you have a logistic network. But you go deeper to the designer and to the builder, then you have a technical network infrastructure. If you think about data, here you have an ontology, here you have a logical data model, okay, RD, and here you have a database, right? And here you have the data dictionary, for instance, just to give an example. But if you think about the process, here you can start with the process, and here we will end with the functions that will be implemented by your by the software. In the end, if you think about object-oriented programming, then what we have here in this part will be the class diagrams and the sequence diagrams. So you have the software design, and later we have the code itself. So what here we have our apartment about our information system. Be aware that this is not about software. The software is here, but this Zachman framework is not known as being a software engineering framework. It's known as being information system framework. And why? Because when we talk about information systems, our concern is not just about building software. It's to build software, but also to align the software, the people, and the business that will be the end users. So it means that in Zachman framework, you also have artifacts for the people, for the planning, and for the motivation. It's very interesting because we have different artifacts for different things. Okay, for instance, you can easily imagine, we'll just give an example here for process model, you can use BPMN 2.0. But if you are thinking, for instance, for here, maybe you can use a chronogram. And if you are here, maybe you can use a class diagram. And here, maybe what you can use is a Python or something like that, all right? So this is interesting because in our apartment, everything is together. By the way, here, for instance, in the distributed system architecture, okay, you'll find your IoT systems here. So everything is together, but in the different rooms. And that's the point. Actually, you can think about Zachman framework. This is not my idea, it's a very common idea, as a periodic table, okay? So why? Because in the end, you are listing diagrams. And even for the places that you don't have a particular schema or artifact to serve, you can imagine that probably one day it will exist. These are facts. Another thing that is interesting here in Zachman framework is that you can think about your programs. For instance, in Nova, we plan our information system program according with Zachman framework. And what we want is to have all the courses covering these rooms. For instance, database course will cover this. Our computers course and programming course will cover this. Our computer network and cybersecurity course will cover this, and so on and so on. And project management course will cover this. HCI course will cover this, and so on. So anyway, this is fantastic, or it seems to be fantastic. It's a good idea, but as you can see, it will require us to be very eclectic, because you need to know a lot about diagrams. Every diagrams are different. If you are building things in OML, then you need to know OML. But if you are building things in BPMN, then you need to build BPMN diagrams. Even being graphical language, we have a lot of representation, and that's a problem. Also, we have these diagrams, and well, in the end, if we're talking about our organization, they need to be current. I mean that one thing is to analyze this isolated, another thing is to analyze our ontology together with the business model. So how can we guarantee that we have a coherence between these? Well, this is a big problem. Actually, is a research area in information systems, this problem of the coherence. But what I can say in this fast chat with you is that we have some strategy to mitigate these problems. For instance, we can use some enterprise frameworks and some standards. There are many enterprise frameworks. Here, I just wrote here the FEAP from US and TOGAF. Maybe TOGAF today is the most known framework. Belongs to open group. And we also have some standards like Archimedes that was created in the Netherlands. And these frameworks can help us to have a better alignment between these different things, and not only in the direction of this alignment, but that is alignment, let's say, in between these different aspects, but also that let's call this horizontal alignment, but also in the vertical alignment. It will be between the business, that is the view of the planner, and the view of the IT, that is completely different. And remember, what we want is to have the guy from the business to serve the guy from IT, I'm sorry, to serve the business. So, what does it mean? So we have different currents, and we can think about these currents as something so simple like that. Okay, we have a business architecture. So we can think as a business architecture as saying what are the goals of the business. Okay, so what brings profits to the organization, and this is what the organization need to do. Another thing is, okay, not what, but how. And if you think about how, you can think about the process architecture. And another thing is, okay, what do I need to have to fabricate, to implement my process? Okay, I need information. The information that is being seen as critical for the business. And if you think about that, then what you have will be a lot of process that you use information to, to serve the business. Okay, and this is triangle. In the end of the day, you can think about this, thinking, okay, some of these, so I have process that will use information that is important to the business, and what I'll do is to implement process using this information. But if you decide to automatize this process, then you can think about having an application architecture. And here we have machinery. And if you have these applications, in the end, what you have is a set of handlers of information. And of course, then you can build a new architecture that will be this application architecture. And of course, if you instantiate this architecture into a technological architecture, that means that you go from the idea, the design of application to its development, then you have a technological architecture. What I mean is that if you have a software design, is not exactly the same to have a software that was developed in Java on the Java virtual machine. And of course, in the end of the day, if you are able, so lucky that you can assign this process to and technological things, then you have a product architecture. So in the end of the day, my friends, it's simple. So let's say this. Okay, we have a business model. All right. Then what you need is to define application architecture, the information, then we can design a set of architecture, and we can develop or buy some products and have an infrastructure. So it's a piece of cake, right? So don't bother. It's so easy. Yes, in theory. You know, I had a former professor, one of my mentors, and he always said to me, Vitor, you know, in theory, everything works well. So, of course, in theory, everything works well, but we know as engineers, in practice, it's completely different. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy. It's not so easy. All right, my friend. It's not so easy because this alignment is very complex. So one thing is to blah, blah, blah. Another thing is to make this alignment between the business and the architecture. And I have this diagram to you just to explain this difficulty of alignment. So as you can see here in this diagram, I will briefly explain this, just explain that we have an area that is related with the scope of the information systems and area that is in green that is related with the scope of the software engineering. And what we have here is that we can start with the vision, the mission, the business. I mean, what the company, the organization must do in order to have profits and to reach its mission. And then we have a process that means how to do it. And here, which information do we need to have in order to accomplish this goal? The relation between the process and the information will allow us to create our information system architecture. In the end of the day, this information system architecture will be a set of handlers. But be aware that this information system architecture is very complex. You know why it's very complex? Because this information system architecture includes the most complex things that exist in the universe. You know what is it? People. People. And people are a part of the information system. And that's the reason why they are so complex. Okay? So when we have this, they are a part of this because in some places they are performing this management of the information manually, but they are also users of our information. Okay? And so they are not a part of this idea of the alignment. So if you want to align your technology with the business, and if you want to get the best potential for your software, you need to guarantee that the users are considered. In the past, and namely in the 80s, I already talked about the 70s and the 80s, we tend to forget the users. If you remember, there was always a bug in the users. So who cares about the users? Well, they just need to read our manuals. But now we are aware that we need to this part of interoperability, usability of the system is very important. But let me go deeper in this. So we have alignment between the process and the software. In the end of the day, if you think about this vertical alignment, you have the process that will lead us to software design and programs. We have a line about the information that can be seen as ontology in the sense that represent the business as the time of definition of the business and our logical data models, relational or non-relational, and in the end, if you go to the physical world, then we'll have to the physical data models, like is the case of the relational database. And also, we can think about the application architecture as being the result or the cross between the process, as you can see here, of the processes and the information. So the idea is which process is handling which information, and it can be achieved by heuristic. The most known heuristic that relates to James Martin, if you remember James Martin from IBM, not James Martin, the famous whiskey, but James Martin from IBM. You remember CRUD matrix, where we have CRUD stands, the acronym stands for create, read, update, and delete. And here we have, in this example, we have here the processes, here the data, and then you are able to cluster which process is handling which data. And of course, each square here will be an information system. You can label the information. For instance, this square here is the planning information system. This square here, you know, this pink square, right, is the product design information system. And what to say about these arrows, these links between these information systems? Here you are designing, and you are planning the interrelation between the information system and the interdependence of the information. So that's the reason why you can create an information system architecture and then to map this information system architecture with apps. Okay, and here you have this relation between information system and application system. So if you are able to define your information systems, then you can map which applications will serve this information system. Beware that in this image, I just put the applications, but don't forget that the complexity is not emerge just because of these applications and link between the application, but it's mainly emerged by people, okay, and procedures that will be related with this, okay. So this application system, this application architecture is a part together with people of the information system architecture, but in the same way, in the end of the day, one thing is the conceptual world, another thing is the hardware. And in the end of the day, we need to put these things work. And so this application architecture is also part of the technological architecture. Okay, like it is here. So, and if you think about this, we have different architectures, one for business, one for processes, one for information, one for information systems, and so on. And we have a lot of graphical language to describe each of these, like Zachman said. So we have a very complex system. It's so complex that it's not a cafe. Let's imagine that it's a hospital. And I have described all the business architecture, I have the process architecture, I have all this. So, and I have, in the other day, I was able to describe the current enterprise architecture. So, like I said, what is the role of enterprise architecture? The role of enterprise architecture is to propose a better architecture. Even considering the complexity, what we want is to build something better. Always looking for better things. So, and that finally, we'll talk about the topic of my presentation. How can we use the enterprise architecture to improve a complex information system? And I would say that what you need to do is to go from the current situation to a better future situation. And what I've been teaching in Portugal, and what I've been doing even in the public administration, is to use this approach. Because I've worked with some Portuguese public institutions launching this type of projects. It's, I would say, well, I don't want to talk a lot about myself, but I would say, in my opinion, at least, with a huge success. I have to say that it's true. And the idea is first to understand what is missing, fill the gaps, then to improve the processes, and then to innovate. I will talk in the rest of my presentation. I noticed that no one has asked me nothing. I hope that you are not boring with my talk. Okay, but so go ahead, say whatever you want, like I said. But so how can I go from this complex situation, because we have an architecture, to a future situation? How can we do that? And I propose these 3 steps. So let's first talk about the gap. And the first gap is between the application architecture and the information system. Here we have 3 types of gaps. Okay, the first gap is about no coverage. So it could be some information system that I have in my system. Well, let me give you the example of the hospital, orthopedics. So I have something about orthopedics. And let's imagine that I don't have any software to help orthopedics. So it would be a gap of no coverage. But it could be different. I can have a software, but the software is not enough. So I have another type of gap that is called improvement gap. Or I can also have the third gap, that is integration gap. So I have everything perfect in orthopedic, but I'm not being able to connect the orthopedic with the general information about the patient. So the identification of these gaps in the language of enterprise architectures configure what we call information system opportunity. What is this? An information system opportunity is opportunity to improve the architecture. And the first step here, if you want to improve, to go from a current situation to the future situation, the first thing to do is to identify your information systems opportunity. Okay, all right? And let me fast. So here you have a way to identify your information system opportunities on the crude matrix. The second thing is to identify your process improvements. How to do this? The idea is to solve this equation. Okay, what you need to do is to reduce time of the process, costs, but at the same time to improve quality, capacity, and I would say to improve the sustainability. You have some improved methodologies. I will not elaborate on them, but also you can bet on work and process automation, like is the case of, for instance, robotic process automation, workflow automation, and so on. And finally, you have another way to improve your architecture by creativity. Okay, and what is this? It's completely different. You are not identifying gaps. You are not identifying process improvement. You identify some technological innovation. It's the opposite. And it's not a need that you have, but you notice that you have drones. Right? And maybe you can think about use the drones in the hospital to deliver, things to the other people. So the creativity and innovation also plays an important part in the information system architecture outlook. Here you have a summary of these information system opportunities. So it means that, well, how can we create things? Well, you can think, okay, well, to create things, you need to be a creative person. Oh, I'm not a creative person. I'm a logical person. No, my friends, everyone is creative. Everyone is creative because it's a human characteristic. So what we have is different triggers, okay? And of course, don't forget, like you remember MacGyver with his, I'm not being jealous about his hair, right, Manuel? We don't care about the hair, but MacGyver and his famous haircuts, right? But if you think about MacGyver, don't forget this switchable blade, the Swiss switchable blade, right? But if you remember MacGyver, he was able to solve, to be creative in using technology. So I think that MacGyver is an inspired guy, because in the end, what we want is to use the best technology in a creative way to improve our architecture. And I believe that we are very good on doing that. So that's really, when do people talk about engineering and being stupid? Oh, you are so square guy, square thinking. It's completely false. Never believe them. We are very creative people, because, you know, and we are creative, but at the same time, you are able to use our creative on the service of people. Okay. So we can have use some very remarkable techniques. I just list some creative techniques here to create new ideas, or to use some more elaborate process like this one, this ESP. There are many in the literature from Russia, trees, kinetics, creative, from Osborne, the creative problem solving. So we have a lot. We have simple creative techniques, but we also have very elaborate process to help us to trigger our creativity. So we don't need to be afraid of using these things to improve our architectures. So finally, and to end my chat, what will be the last part? So after you define your new architecture by identifying these information system opportunities, so you are in conditions to look to this chaotic puzzle that is, like I said, is composed with many Excel sheets, many databases, many users, many different goals, people motivations, IoT systems, sensors, cars, computers, whatever. After you identify this information systems opportunity, you can propose a future architecture. But it does not mean nothing, except if you have a transformation plan. That is what you will allow to go from here to here. And usually this is the hardest part. Why it is the hardest part? Because usually it means that you need to ask money. So someone will need to give you money. You need to sell your dream, of course, but you need to have money enough to improve the situation, to a better situation. And it means that sometimes part of your ideas will be dropped. But that's life, my friends. We will not, that is, we all have constraints in our life. And it's the same for the information system architecture. We have constraints. But I will not elaborate a lot on this transformation plan, just to say that what we need to do is first to identify the budget, then to identify the measured projects to go from a place to another. So this movement from here to here need to be transformed in projects. These projects need to have the common things of the project. So we need to allocate resources. We need to have a project planning for each of them. And of course, we need to have the appropriate infrastructure. So it's not just about building a fantastic thing if you don't have the right infrastructure. And of course, you need to have vision and the right technology management. So Thank you very much. I put some sporting materials on my share today. Thank you very much for your attention, for listening to me today. And now, I'm not sure if I was fast enough, but I'll be happy to chat with you about okay.
Thank you very much, Vitor.
Hope you enjoy these ideas.
Oh, there is some returning. Thank you very much for your beautiful presentation. You can know that here, well, there in Mexico, now you have a new house to continue with
Thank you very much.
Mexican friends with your beautiful work when you want, okay? Then, si alguien quiere hacerle alguna pregunta a Víctor, por favor, a Víctor, perdón.
I can understand questions in Spanish, in castellano.
No os preocupéis si no sois capaces de decirla en inglés, la decís y si hace falta se la traduzco, no pasa nada. A inglés o a portugués. ¿No hay preguntas? Bueno, querido Víctor, pues antes de nada, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much indeed for your beautiful presentation. It was a pleasure listening to you once more. And what I'm going to do now is to show you your diploma. Let me share the screen to show you your diploma. I want to send you it by email in 2 or 3 minutes more. No, you can see, I think you can see it. I don't know if you are watching the diploma. Are you watching the diploma?
Okay. Yes, thank you very much.
And
it was an honor to be here today.
It was an honor for us to listen to you, and it was beautiful to listen to you as every time I listen to you. And I hope we can meet there in Portugal or here in Spain or there in Mexico as soon as possible. Okay.
Okay.
And okay. And lo que quiero hacer ahora simplemente, es recordarles que mañana tienen ustedes una plenaria a las 9 de la mañana, hora de México, en el auditorio virtual Ángel Jordán, que será soluciones a retos o a problemas asociados al cambio de paradigma de transportación a través de herramientas computacionales de la doctora Ilse Cervantes, y que moderará el director del Congreso, el doctor Yesler Mejía. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. And once more, Victor, for staying in the 10th International Conference of Software Processing Improvement. Yes?
It was an honor. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Before I left this session, I would like to wish all the best to all the participants. Good luck to everyone and your families. Take care, stay safe, and don't forget to reach me if you come to Portugal. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Víctor. Buenas noches, buenas tardes a todos ahí en México. Buenas noches aquí de este lado del Atlántico. Y nos vemos mañana en la siguiente presentación que el profesor, el profesor Yesrel les ha mandado ya la dirección de acceso. Veo que hay alguien, te están mandando, gracias todos, Víctor. Y bueno, excelente como siempre. Estamos en contacto. Un fuerte abrazo y buenas noches, buenas tardes a todos. Bye.